Hello, today is our EXP Iowa Skyslope training. This is to supplement any other training that you need to do within skyslope.com, and also EXP World provides some training. But I wanted to point out a few things that some of our agents need some additional help with. So I'll go ahead and log into my agent account. I'm a high roller. Just kidding. This is because I work really hard at being the best agent for, or the best broker for you. So, but seriously. So if you're going to create a listing, come in here. You can do either search by address and I'll pre-populate some stuff, or do manual entry. So for referrals, you put in a listing and you do it as manual entry. There is a PowerPoint presentation to go over that. So if you have a referral, reach out to me and I'll make sure you get that. It's also in Workplace in the Learning tab. So for now, we'll just switch to this. I think the easiest thing to do is probably just to do my own address, because I'm not great at making stuff up. So then you're going to do what type of listing is this. So we've got a few different things on the checklist now, and I apologize, it keeps changing. We made a lot more things required at the beginning of the year intentionally to try to help with best practices and to make sure we were really crossing our T's and dotting our I's. But after feedback from the agents, we went ahead and loosened those restrictions. So the checklists were recently updated. However, I'm still waiting for Regional Operations Manager to sign off on it before I send it out with the new, basically templates for you. But this should be pretty much how it stays. So we've got the checklist for a lot. Iowa, if you are just transferring a listing to XP, so this is for agents who are currently licensed with another brokerage and transfer over. So for those of you that sponsor Iowa agents, this is what you're going to want to do. This is when they literally transfer. So if they cancel a listing at their brokerage and then relist, that would be a brand new listing. There is a transfer form that some agents take advantage of, where the sellers sign it, their current broker signs it, and then I sign it, and it gets transferred. So few less things are on this checklist. It's a little bit more understanding, because obviously they weren't with us when they first got the listing, but there are some things they need to let their sellers know, like we're appointed agency and things like that. Then we've got our Iowa lease listing checklist. For now, this is it's just all leases, residential or commercial. It's, got what you need for a lease listing. And then commercial checklist. This is for commercial sales. And this one is still kind of being built out. It still could change, as I am not an expert in commercial sales. So for those of you that want to dabble in it, we need to find you a commercial agent who does have experience in commercial sales, or you need to get your CCIM certification, and or you want to disclose to the people that you're not an expert. So like I took my uncle's, as we know in Iowa, sometimes one agent can do both, especially in more rural areas. So in my town, one agent can actually do residential or commercial. There's not really a clear distinction, like, oh, Bob Jones does commercial. So anyways, my uncle owns some buildings. So I listed a property for him, and right in the listing paperwork, obviously put that we were related, but I also put that Holly Brink is not an expert at commercial real estate, just so they couldn't come back at me and be like, hey, you didn't know what you were doing. I'm like, I told you I didn't know what I was doing. Thanks for the business. Okay, so my personal listing or immediate relative, parent, spouse, child, grandparent, sibling. So this would also include, and maybe I need to add it, but this would include if you own a company or you're a builder. This would be the checklist that you would do if you're listing it yourself, because there's some extra disclosures that are required. outgoing referral. So again, if you're going to send an outgoing referral to anyone outside of eXp Realty, then you kind of process it here. The reason you don't have to do it if it's with eXp Realty is because it's processed internally as like an agent split. So this is just if you're sending an outside referral to somebody else, whether it's locally or across the country. Referrals are great. So my typical philosophy for referrals, and there's no hard and fast rule or anything, I try to see if there's an eXp agent in the area. If there's not, or I really don't think that they're going to be able to help my client very well, then I'll use this as an attraction opportunity. Not that it's worked yet, but I like to say that it's an attraction opportunity. You know, you give them the referral, invite them into the world at some point. Just keep that relationship going. It's another connection with our real estate agent, you know. And this is the one you're primarily going to use, right? Iowa residential listing checklist. And the reason that they say Iowa now is because, like, for corporate and for people higher up the food chain than me, I think they see all of our checklists. So this helps when they're trying to figure out which checklist to assign. It was in the instructions I was given. So go ahead and do Iowa residential listing checklist. Okay, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we will just go and do a, so I don't know what that did, if that actually, okay, so because I closed out of it without moving forward, it just kind of vanished, which is fine because that was just a sample. So now let's say that you are just representing the buyer. So you go into create transaction, a little bit more fun here. So I put in the address. If you have the MLS number, if it's for sale by owner, I think you can do, oh, let's see what happens just for fun. Co-buyer agent. So Tracy was going to tell me there's a new process for this, so I won't touch on that. Co-buyer agent is definitely for, this is internal, so don't freak out if you're like, oh, well, the MLS, I'm going to be the only agent. But co-agent is if, like, if you have an assistant who's not signed up for an assistant account, but they're maybe they're licensed and they're doing all this, this is where they would add you as a co-agent, or this is where you could add a co-agent, or if you out of town, you have someone covering for you and they need access to your file, A, we need to let the client know that because they need to sign an agency form, but B, this is where you would add them. Basically, anybody that you want to see your file, and it either needs to be a member of your team officially, or they need to be on the appointed agency form. Otherwise, nobody should have access to your files or your contracts or anything like that. That's why we're appointed agency and not a consensual dual agency office. Sales price. Oh, let's just pretend I live in $1 million home. That would be fun. Okay. Source. So I think you can just, you have to put something. So just other self. Obviously, no. Closing date. Just say June 15th, 2020. Acceptance date. Put today because you're supposed to upload these contracts within 48 hours after they're accepted. Just saying. Select which office if you're in multiple states. So here's where you assign the checklist type. And there's a couple of more options on this side, right? So broker price opinion, which I'm wondering now, that should be a listing side one. That might need to be a listing side one. But broker price opinion, if you're doing a broker price opinion, commercial lease, commercial sale, Iowa agent represented only the seller, Iowa agent or immediate family member is the buyer, Iowa agent or team acted as a dual agent, Iowa, agent represented buyer in a for sale by owner transaction. Iowa, agent represented only the buyer. Iowa, outgoing referral of a client or lead. So this is in there because if you do the listing of the outgoing referral, you're supposed to accept a contract, and then you would assign this checklist as well. Water, land sale, and then quite frankly, there's other. And then residential lease. So this checklist is more specific for sure. And so for now, until it changes, for broker price opinion, just put it in here. It's fine because it's on the transaction side. So, I mean, it should be fine, but I'll look into that. And if it changes, I will re-record this. So type. So here, this is very important. So we'll just pretend for a second that this is a listing and I hit accept contract. You'd want to make sure that you put, you know, listing sold. Because you're just representing the seller. Unless you are a dual agent, then you would do both, listing and purchase. In this case, if you're like, oh, I'm representing the buyer, then it just goes in here as purchase tenant. This assignment of a type is what affects some things in eXp Enterprise and affects your disbursement authorization form. In addition to just communicates kind of upfront computer-wise, like what side of the transaction you're on, right? And then of course there's always other like referrals, for example. Because anything you do that's real estate related needs to be funneled, if you will, through eXp Realty and is subject to your split. So then you would fill in the type. Let's do this. Year built, 1900. I know that one. And next. So it's incomplete. You want to make sure that you have time to finish this. So go ahead and go through this. So seller's first name, seller's last name. We need this contact information. I know that there is no asterisk here. I can assure you, Tracy and I and other admins that have access to this are not contacting your clients. But there has been a few times that we've had emergencies or agents have not been able to finish their transactions, or, you know, I mean, I need you to hope for the best but prepare for the worst, and I need to know how to get a hold of your clients. So that's why, you know, we're asking for that information. It's seriously, because there's been a couple of times where I've had to like Facebook message people because an agent, something catastrophic came up and an agent could not finish a transaction. So then if it's a trust company or other entity, I like that verbiage, so we're going to copy it, put it somewhere. You would check mark this and it changes to company name. And remember, if it's a trust company or other entity that you don't work with regularly, if you're a builder that we work with regularly and we already have your you know, documentation somewhere, then that's totally fine. But if it's just somebody you work with once in a while or once in a blue moon, we do need, in the checklist, it's going to say a place for their articles of incorporation or their trust documentation, because we need to know who can sign for that, because then the seller is, we'll just say the Brink Trust, but then it might be signed by Holly Brink Trustor. I think that's what it is. Maybe it's trustee. And so, you know, you'd kind of put the title there. So if it's the Brink Corporation, it would be Holly Brink, president on all the paperwork. So, okay, so for this, I'm just going to do Holly Brink. All those emails. I'm just gonna fill in my old address. Okay, we'll do this one. So this is my mailing address, and then phone number, alternate. Okay, and then you can if you know what the forwarding address is going to be, you can put it in there. Again, just good record keeping, like for yourself too. So, and then new sellers, so I could add my husband's information. Purchaser. So remember, in this case, you actually technically represented the buyer, but yes. So even if you're just going based off the contract, you're going to put in the buyer's first name, last name, and then a phone number if you have it. I know oftentimes we don't have the other side's information, but again, fill in whatever you do have or can get from the other agent or the closing company. For now, we'll just say Tom Jones. I don't know why that's like my go-to. Tom Jones. We'll be like, oh, sorry, I don't have that information. I don't know, any notes you want at all. Save. Okay, so this one is interesting. Title, escrow, or attorney. I think we need at least one for sure. So it says right here too, like if the property does not have a title company, fill out either escrow or attorney below. So, so oftentimes I use National Escrow Services as my escrow company. So I would put in here, and that's, I'm going to be switching to Silverline Title and Escrow. Oh, sorry, Katie, you pop up. Don't need Katie. You can search for like Katie's here. Katie Gass filled in her phone number, make sure her email is correct. And then like, I know her file should probably go to Brittany, so I usually put that in there. So whoever needs to get the paperwork, and then you hit save. Oh, she was in there. Oh my goodness. What happened? Wasn't it all just in here like 2 seconds ago? And then G. Now let's try it. Oh my goodness. Okay. So sorry, I'm knocking over my coffee. Okay, so see how it said green there now? I think we can move forward. Yep. So it's sort of misleading. You're like, oh, I have to enter in all these things. Well, no, you don't. You just need one. And what we need in here is whoever the closing agent is going to be. Now, if you don't know who the closing agent is going to be, go ahead and put everybody that you need to in here, right? Like, you know, but we need at least the one who's going to be the closing agent. Then you just hit next. Agent representing the other side. Again, the more information, the better. So first name, last name, whatever their office address is, phone number, co-brokerage, broker tax ID number. So usually we don't need their W-9 unless it's a referral, unless the disbursement authorization wasn't done correctly, or wasn't confirmed, or people didn't access to make changes, or the closer doesn't follow disbursement authorization instructions, and EXP ends up having to cut the check. But our preferred method is to ask the closer to pay any referral agents directly, as well as pay any co-broke offices directly. Now, when you're representing just the buyer and not the seller, obviously we don't need that information either. But the more information you can give us, the better. And then even this, like email, put in their email, because then when we send out the DA, my instructions have always been to send it to everybody, you and the title, escrow, and or attorney, and the agent representing the other side, because Iowa Realty is notorious. They still want to collect the gross commission check, and then they're going to deposit it and disperse our commission check. So it adds like a couple of days to the process. But if we can make sure that they're payment processing team gets that DA, it saves us some time. Then you just hit save. Those again. Save. And then you can enter these, they're totally optional, but like, let's say your buyer is out of town and you've basically been working with a sister, or something. I was just an example. You can put an extra contact information here, lender. This is good to have, you know, even when you're representing this seller, it's good to know what the lender is, and talk to them. And in this sample one, we're representing the buyer, of course. So it's good to have the lender in here, and then home warranty if and when you decide to do that. You can go in and update this at any time. So we'll just say at this point, it's, you know, we just got the documents accepted. We don't know what's going on yet. So sale commission, we're representing the buyer, 3% of $1 million, $30,000. What? Okay. So on this screen, for those of you that charge something above and beyond a split or a flat fee, mind you, if you're getting paid a flat fee, you'd put it in here and tab, and it would change that. So I'm just telling you that because on the listing side, the other thing to remember is this all defaults to gross. So if things aren't specified in like 3 different places, the assumption is gross. So just know that. So 3%. So if you know, so what I've instructed those of you that like to do net is you need to put in the dollar amounts. Like Tracy should not have to calculate what concessions are taken out because you'd be surprised. Everyone does it a little differently. So if you know after concessions, you're only going to get, you know, $25,000, then you'd put it in there. The TC fee, admin brokerage commission, this line can be used for a lot of things. What we typically use it for is if you're charging above and beyond the commission amount, or the office, somebody else is getting this money internally, another EXP agent who is charging you a fee or something, you'd put it in there. Either way, right? But then you need to explain it down below. In a perfect world, in my head, you would just do this. $25,295 is the total commission. But either way is really fine. I think the key is letting Tracy know what's going on. So typically that's what you see here. So we'll just say $295 on the buyer side. I don't have a transaction coordinator, so I leave that blank. If you have a transaction coordinator that's set up internally, because if you have an assistant or administrative assistant, you can actually set them up with their own Skyslope account so they can open files for multiple people. In some states we have agents and that's what they do. They like kind of put out their services like, hey, I'm happy to help you. An alternative to that, for those of you that don't know, is Skyslope does have a division called Skyslope TC, and I believe they charge $300 or $350 per transaction, and that's transaction, not side. So if you're lucky enough to double end something, dual agency it, you just get charged the one fee. So I kind of ramble, but that can also pre-populate. So like I think when some of our admins start a file for an agent, it populates here. But anyways, it doesn't matter if it pre-populates or you want to type it in. It's either way, it's fine. That's more for you, but also so we know who to go to ask questions. So other deductions. So here's the fun thing. So you know how sometimes you get to the end of a transaction and you have to throw in some money to make it happen. Like, it's not ideal. We've all been there. Either the client demands it or we're just doing it to be nice. You know, we're like, whatever, they can just reduce my commission by $500. Well, 2 things need to happen. 1, I'm actually supposed to sign off on that. And 2, it goes in here as a deduction from this. So you have opted to reduce your commission, and that comes out of your side. Does that make sense? So we put it in here as another deduction. So that's what that is for. That's the only thing I can think of that we've used it for, is like, oh, hey, someone had to throw in $700 for an AC repair. So we're noting that. And then we put it down here. So commission is net to agent minus the closing costs paid by the seller, $295 additional commission paid by the buyer, and $700 taken out of commission from agent to help pay for the air conditioner. The more information you can give Tracy about something, the better, because she's not a mind reader. She's pretty awesome, but she's not a mind reader. So referral type, I like now that they have it sort of required. You can say no referral, like this was my own blood, sweat, and tears, or maybe it was a past client referral or something. So external would be anyone that's not an EXP agent. Internal would be an EXP agent, and you'd still say Mary Jones, the agent in Louisiana, sent me this buyer referral. And so you would not need a W-9 if it was internal, but you'd still put the information in here. And then external, that's where you would put, you know, add. You click add first. You put as much information as you can about the other agent. So Mary Jones, save, referral brokerage, the real estate co. So then are you giving them a flat dollar amount or a percentage? If the percentage is anything but gross, remember referrals are paid off the top too. So it's always gross and off the top, unless you've negotiated something different and needs to be documented. So you're like, okay, I said I would pay her 25%, but you put it in here, 25% goes to, I mean, the more you can communicate, the better. Commission split. So if I had added a co-agent here, it would be here, Holly Brink and Tom Jones. Maybe I get 80, maybe I give Tom 20 for some reason, or maybe that's my admin even, you know. And then I'm just gonna leave the rest for Tracy. So personal deal, we get 3 personal deals per year. You have to be involved in the transaction as a buyer or seller, is my understanding. And basically the cost comes down to like $315, I believe, because it's a flat fee. They like manually override that file to charge you the flat fee plus the broker review fee and the E&O fee. So once you've capped, I mean, but even if you're not taking the discount for some reason, or maybe you do this all the time, like that's why you got your real estate license, is because you do a lot of personal deals, you buy investment properties, you sell them. We still need to, I mean, it's still helpful to put yes, and then you would just say, you know, please process commission regularly. I don't want the discount or whatever. Because you may still want to show income, right? You may still want to cap. So they're kind of related but not related. So personal deal, if you're involved in the transaction as the buyer or the seller, part of the company that's buying or selling, please put yes, just so we know that. When you're done, you hit submit. And now it's pending. So now you have this email, and we strongly recommend that you copy this email and that you use it on all of your, oh, I put the wrong checklist type. So if you notice that at the beginning, you can be like, oops, Holly, we're bad. I represented the buyer in this transaction. And so, sorry about that, working from home during coronavirus, right? So I fixed that. Oh, so we copy and paste this email, and from the very beginning, I copy this and I put it in my emails to the client when I'm sending them all their paperwork back, and then like, here's your confirmed signed paperwork. When I'm sending it to the closer, like, here's the file, the other agent, whatever. All communication, I try to do that because then it's in here, it's in the log. And that's part of the PNP. But already there's a pretty extensive log here because I've added commission on it. So, but when you copy the email, it has a long email log as well. And you can kind of narrow it down. Email and then log file attached if you need to email it. This is good. Sorry. This is good in case you need to email it. You can also add other things. Screenshots. Oops. So, all right, and then let's just say, oh, the whole thing fell apart. Then you would go into checklist and you would make sure you did your termination documents and upload them. The whole thing fell apart, and we'll handle it on our end. So yeah, once you upload the withdrawal form, or if you make a mistake, I'm just going to put training, Skyslope training. That way, when we're being audited, we're like, okay, we know it was kind of a fake file from the get-go, so it's been canceled. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that explains some stuff. This is incomplete. I'll let you know what is missing from some of your things. I have one outstanding referral still. I need to get, I think I uploaded things that need to assign them. You know, we're all human. DigiSign, if you want to go into DigiSign without actually assigning it to a file, you just do DigiSign, new envelope, no property. I use this all the time for stuff. like when you guys need us to sign something, we ask that you put it in some sort of electronic form and send it to ia.sign@exprealty.net. But from time to time, new agents don't have access to anything, right? So I have to upload it in here and then sign it. This is kind of like, go back to your home screen. So working documents. Those are personal docs. You can upload personal docs, like if you have your own forms that you use all the time, you can upload them in here. You can create templates and you can share them with me, and I can share them with everybody else if you're like super bored. So this is office docs. This is company stuff: referral agreement, the site unseen purchase agreement, agency disclosure, landlord. So Arizona's got, you know, their stuff in there, and then Iowa, someone asked me to like separate it out into the different folders, so we're working on that. But you can find a lot of stuff in here. A lot of this was uploaded in February, March. There is a new lead brochure, by the way. I don't think that they've put that in Form Simplicity yet. All kinds of stuff. So make sure you're acquainted with this, or if you're looking for a form, it should be in Form Simplicity, but you can also find it in here. And let's just say you're like, okay, I'm going to add the rate on the fact sheet. You can assign it right here to whatever file you want to assign it to. And then you go back to that file, and it should be in there. So you go to documents. The trick is it goes based on when it was uploaded to Skyslope. So there it is. So I would select it and then I would DigiSign or straight email. So DigiSign it, you know, and then I can assign all the things. So DigiSign, they're working on creating like a forms aspect, but technically we can create templates. And I've been trying to create templates. So radon, ideally they would say like radon and then apply. So you can do that for each individual document. So I just need to do it for each individual document. And then what happens is if you choose the template once we've created it and you assign it, then you don't have to drag and drop where things go. You just hit next and automatically it's going to come to you so you can fill in what you need to fill in, like the date or whatever. So if anybody wants to volunteer to do that, you just go to DigiSign templates, create a template, and then once, see how it says who signs first, agent? I do it that way everything where there's blanks that you'd want to fill in, you have the opportunity as the agent to fill that in. Who signs second? Seller, purchaser, because we want this to work for both sides of the transaction, right? But if you don't need somebody when you're programming it, you just exit out. Or if you don't assign someone to that spot, it'll just skip it. Does that make sense, sort of? So once you've done that, you can save it. And then you can create another. I'm trying to think. So once you've created a template, you can, if you wanted to, you can come right in here and create an envelope. There is a way to share it. I'm trying to remember how. Share. So here's where you would be like, oh, great, I did this. One document, because it's always maybe you start your files in Form Simplicity or something else, but then like later on down the road, you'd rather just initiate it through here. So you're like, I want to do lead-based paint. Oh, but then you're going to want to share it with me. So if you share it with me, I can share it with everybody. Iowa? No. All offices select individual actions or share with others. So just share it with me, and then I'll figure out how to share it to the whole office. I might have to do it individually for all I know. I don't know. Okay, but that's enough about Skyslope, I think, today. Up here in support, there's access to other things. I'm pretty sure in the world they still do live Skyslope trainings. I have not fully grasped tasks and reminders yet. So I know that you can program things in here. I've not utilized it. I think I've tried a few times. Please double check. Closed yesterday. Okay, so those were from last year. So if you figure this out, let me know. It's kind of cool. I mean, I think what you can do is you can set it up like when you need to upload things, like reminders, so you can use it as like a file management tool. So if you create a template and you figure out how to use that, let me know. We'll do a training on it. With that being said, I'm trying to do individual trainings on transactions and even just things to help agents in terms of best practices or listing appointments, buyer consultations. So if you feel like you've got an area that you really excel, I would love to do a training with you and post that in Workplace and in our own little library for people to refer back to. So this is our Skyslope training from April 22nd, 2020. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks for watching.